In today's video, I'm going to show you a concept that is going to transform your chipping and pitching overnight. You do not want to miss this. So it's no secret that having a good short game is crucial for lowering your scores. I see so many amateur golfers, they throw away 5, 10, even 15 shots around because they have a poor short game technique. Now, the concept that I'm going to run through today is going to apply for everything sort of inside this 30-yard sort of shot. So chipping, pitching, bunker play, it applies to everything. And really the reason why it applies to everything is because it's just the physics of how we hit this shot. Now don't worry, it's not going to be complicated. It's actually going to be super simple, and it is going to be your light bulb moment in your short game. So what is this concept? Well, it's all about how we apply a force on this handle. So to start with, let me show you what most people do incorrectly. If I was to imagine I'm hitting a pitch shot right here, and I was to freeze in my downswing in this position, and I was to ask you, right, draw an arrow in the direction you think I'm applying a force on this handle. AKA, do you think I'm pushing down and forwards? Do you think I'm pulling upwards, backwards, down there? Where do you think I'm pushing or pulling on this handle? Now, when I do this in a lesson, pretty much 95% of amateurs will say they feel like they're pushing down and forwards, and that kind of makes sense. You know, the ball's sort of there, we want to push down and forwards to get to it. However, this is the worst thing we can do. And the reason for this is if I bring the club up into this position, representing that position down there, I apply a force down and forwards, where's the club head go? It goes upwards, right? So as soon as we start to apply a force down and forwards, what happens is the club wants to kick upwards. So firstly, it brings it off the ground. If I was then just to turn through without making any compensations, I'd thin it or potentially even miss it if I'm doing it super extreme. The second thing that's also happening is as I do that, I'm de-lofting the club more. That means I'm going to expose the leading edge. That therefore means if I'm hitting anything into grain, if I'm hitting anything in soft conditions, chances are I'm more than likely going to fat it. So as you can see, by applying a force down and forwards, it's kind of one of the worst things we can do for our short game. So what we want to do instead is rather than apply a force down and forwards, I actually want you to apply a force sort of upwards and towards the body. Now straight away you're going, what? How does that work? I'm going to be applying a force away from the golf ball. Well, watch this. If I represent that same position that was down there again, I apply a force just straight up towards the sky. What happens to the club head? It goes down, right? So here's the thing. The more I start to apply an upward force on the club, the more the club's going to release out. And this is crucial because it allows us to present the loft that we are desiring. Quite often you'll see amateurs, you know, let's just say they start with 3 degrees of shaft lean. By the time they get back to impact, they've got 6 or 7 degrees. Again, not going to produce the shot that we want to, but also it's going to allow us to be able to use the bounce. Now, straight away, I already know what those keyboard warriors are going to say. What about Phil Mickelson? What about the hinge and hold method? Well, here's the thing. It is impossible to hinge the club and fully hold it and hit a good chip shot. Why? If I was to stay the same height and I was to max and just hinge this, as you can see right here, where is the club head now? Off the ground. If I was to, again, stay the same height and turn, even if I drop into side bend, that club head is now way off the ground. So golfers who have this hinge and hold methods, which don't get me wrong, there are a lot of fantastic chippers, including Phil Mickelson, who hinge it a lot in the backswing. I don't care who you are, you have to release the club a certain amount. Now, yes, you might be looking more like this in your follow through, but you would have still had to have released that club in the downswing. Otherwise, you would never actually get to the ball. So it doesn't matter if you're a hinge and hold person. Again, hinge and hold is just the feel. In reality, you are still applying an upwards force and the club is still going to be releasing out. So before the keyboard warriors jump in there, Phil Mickelson's technique, even though it's called hinge and hold, you're not fully holding the club, because if you did, you would just miss it every single time, because when you set the wrists up, the club displaces, and as long as I was to stay the same height, you would miss it. So in order to actually get into that good position at impact, you would have to knee dip, you'd have to dip your head down. No good chippers actually do that, so we don't want to be doing that. So how can we take that concept and put it into something actionable out on the golf course? Now, what I want you to do is imagine there are 2 magnets, one on your belt buckle and one on the butt end of the grip. Now, what you're going to feel is in your downswing, after having a nice relaxed grip pressure, I want you to feel like you can bring those 2 magnets as close together as possible. So again, you're going pulling up on the handle, bringing the magnets closer together. And it's very much going to feel like that butt end of the grip is working up towards the belt buckle. Now again, how can we apply this to all of the different shots? Well, for some shots, we're going to pull harder. Other shots, we're not going to pull as much. So for example, if I'm hitting a low chip and run, ball back, hands forwards, a little bit more this way, I'm not going to be driving the hands down and forwards because that's just going to dig. I am going to be pulling up on the club. It's just on a scale of 1 to 10, might be more like a 2 or 3 out of 10. So again, I'm still going to be pulling upwards on the handle. That's going to give me, you can see here, just a little bit of release, but I'm still coming back with some great amount of shaft lean. Now, why is it that it has to release somewhat? You are going to be setting your wrist to a certain degree in the backswing. So even if you're doing a hinge and hold, you start with, let's just say 10 degrees of shaft lean. You might set your wrist 10 degrees. Well, in that case, then you've now got to uncock them 10 degrees back to that original position. So by just simply pulling up slightly, you're going to be able to get into a really good position. And again, do that again. Obviously, I'm hitting off a mat, so you won't be able to see the strike anywhere near as much, but you can see as I'm doing this, I'm able to get into some nice positions. And I am feeling like I am pulling up on the handle. If I do more of a flop shot, if I open it up a little bit more, on this shot, I might feel like I pull a lot harder, more like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Why? That's going to release the loft out a lot quicker. So if I do that here, again, this one, I'm going to feel like I pull, as you can see there, a lot harder, comes off a lot higher, a lot softer. And the final one is then going to be just hitting a standard sort of shot, and there, a little bit of shaft lean, ball in the middle, and maybe on this one, I'll feel like I hit a little bit more of a 5 out of 10 in terms of pulling it up towards the belt buckle. But again, the feeling is still going to be pulling it up this way. That's going to allow me to release the club so I can use the bounce of the club, just like so. And again, you can see as I finish, I'm finishing in a nice position right there, but end of the grip is nice and close to the belt buckle. Now, what if it's just a gentle little chip? Same sort of principle. Still pulling upwards on the handle slightly. Again, you can see my left arm's nice and soft. It's finishing close to the body. But again, the force is always being applied upwards. Even again, if I'm hitting something a little bit more in the middle, sort of a slightly higher shot, again, it's going to be a little bit more upwards, and you can see I'm applying that force up. So it doesn't matter what shot it is. All of those examples there, if I apply a force upwards to some degree, some shots you're going to apply it higher, harder, other shots it's going to be a little bit less, but that is going to allow you to release the club the correct amount so that you can have the most solid and consistent contact. Trust me, before you knock it, and before you start to comment down below, make sure you try this, because I guarantee you it is going to be a light bulb moment. So there you have it. That is the crucial concept that is going to transform your short game. Now, if you have questions about anything I've gone through in today's video, drop them down in the comments down below. I answer every single comment. If you need a little bit more one-to-one help with your game, I offer online coaching lessons on the Skills platform. Again, see the link down in the description. And if you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you back here soon.